live.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mortgage Coach and Productivity Mastermind, our weekly Friday call. And I'm Jen Plessis, and I'm kind of running solo today, which is okay. I think everybody's super busy with the holidays, but we really appreciate that you've joined us today. And we have with us, Dave's going to be here in just a second, and he's going to talk for just a moment. And we have Michelle Town with us. Michelle, you want to say hi to everybody? If she's there, she has herself on.
I'm here. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday.
Thank you. So Michelle's a little under the weather, so she's not going to be on video today. So just be Tina and I, and of course, Dave here in just a few minutes. But, you know, I'm really excited today because I want to introduce our guest. Tina Collazo is with the Collazo Group in Northern Virginia. So she's one of my partners in crime, as we call it, right? Partners in crime. But we do a lot of things together. We just are real great kindred spirits. But she is a top producing realtor, and she's been in the business for 16 years. So I'm sure she has a lot to say about that. But one of the reasons that I was so excited about having her on the call today is that she does something really, really unique as a realtor. And I felt that our community needed to hear what she does for a couple of reasons. One is for you to ask questions. So as you know, this is a mastermind, so we want you to be asking questions. So I will definitely relay those questions to Tina. So that's one, so you can do that. The other is that her strategy for working with her clients is very much in line with us as mortgage coaches, where she's not just getting a client and saying, oh, well, your credit's not good, so I'll just hope that I can work with you later, or your situation isn't ready. So she's very strategic in her approach, and she's going to share that with us today. Because I want you to know that there are realtors out there that are like Tina, probably not as unique as Tina. She's got a couple of designations that make it a little different, but also for Tina to share with us today how we could approach realtors that don't do what she does and maybe help their business grow by saying, hey, here's a unique way to approach clients and grow your business. So Tina, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jen, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. So, Tina, again, you've been 16 years in the business, and I know that your focus is, I'm going to read what you wrote because I want to make sure I get right, is your focus is money management and building wealth through real estate, which is interesting because I've heard a lot of realtors say, I build wealth through real estate. I don't know how I do it, but I claim to do it. But no one ever says anything about money management. So we're excited to have you on. I also want to say, before we bring Dave on here to say a few words, that you're also the co-author of a couple books. The first one is called Empowered Women of Social Media. I can't read my own writing. Finding Global Unity in Social Comments. And then the other book is called My Now for the Single Parent, because I know that you are a single parent. So you've got all these layers of things that have happened to you that pushed you into this market. So we're going to talk about all of that soon here. So Dave, why don't you pop on and say what you want to say before we dig into what Tina has to share with us.
Well, first of all, Tina, I am so pumped and looking forward to hearing your story. Just in the prep that we did before we had the call, I could tell it's going to be special. I want to remind everybody that's listening to this conversation, it becomes super valuable for you when you're present. You know, when you are not multitasking, you know, like going from mobile phone to here, you're present, engaged. And by the way, you're taking notes, you know, so make sure you guys take great notes. And then remember, this is a mastermind. So you can, if you're watching this from Facebook, put comments in Facebook. What were the quotes and takeaways? And if you want to ask Tina during the call or Jen during the call, you can put that in Zoom, and we'll make sure that we moderate that. Yeah. So the one strategic point I want to make, and what got me super pumped when Jen told me who the guest was and what her focus was, is we've been really helping you guys in, I guess, evangelizing, ranting. That if you want to not get eliminated by the technology companies doing mortgages, you've got to get out of the transaction business. You've got to, you know, when it comes to price and speed, Amazon Mortgage is going to do that pretty well. And so what you need to do is you need to connect with people on a human level. And by the way, you need to go from mortgage business to I help you build wealth with real estate business. And you're the mortgage partner. So the real estate agent takes care of the lifestyle. We take care of the mortgage management. And so I think it's going to be a really cool conversation. Jen, who is, her DNA is helping families build wealth with real estate, using Mortgage Coach as a tool within that. And now we have one of her partners. So I might say one more thing, but I'm going to listen for about 15 minutes.
I'm sure you will.
So you guys rock it out, and I can't wait to see the comments and all the engagement on this call.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thanks. Okay, Tina, so let's dig right in. I want to first have you share how you got into real estate, just real quickly on that. And then, what was the turning point that changed for you to go into the money management piece of real estate, if you wouldn't mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I got out of college, started with just worked a couple years with a federal government contractor. And so ultimately, being in my early 20s, I decided I really wanted to invest in real estate. And so went and took my dad said, Tina, if you're going to do anything, do the research. And so I took the fundamentals of real estate, or just the real estate class, if you will, and just ended up getting my real estate license. And that's how I ultimately got into real estate. But I, in the midst of all that, got married and bought a whole bunch of homes, even investment properties, but ended up going through divorce. So by the time my divorce happened, my ex and I lived in one house. I lived in the big house. He lived in a country club home. And then we had an investment in Baltimore, and I had to end up doing bankruptcy. I had to lose it all between bankruptcy and foreclosure. And this is about 10 years ago. And I always had great credit prior to the getting married and prior to the divorce. But ultimately, I had to start over from scratch. So before it was just me, and now it was Tina plus two. I have two sons. And so with that, I've always made a lot of money since a very young age. But I started making, matter of fact, six figures when I was 24, 25 years old when I got into real estate. And but with that said, it came down to learning how to not only make money, but to save it, to reinvest it, to pay off debt. I was always a free spirit with money, and I had to learn to become more diligent with it and develop a relationship with it. So ultimately, fast forward, that's why now I'm very passionate about helping my clients learn how to manage money, because they make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of it. So, and it impacts their credit scores and impacts their ability to put down money for a down payment.
Yeah,
so that's how it came to happen.
Yeah. And I think, most of us that are in real estate or mortgage lending, we kind of came upon this business. We didn't all go to school for it. So we definitely, know that. But so you got in and you started producing really well, and you're, very, very highly respected in our area in the Denver, how we say Denver, I don't know why I say that, the DMV. I've lived here for 30 years, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia market. And by the way, Dave, her son is a Bronco fan. So just want to let you know, because I'm a Bronco fan too. So that's another good thing.
He almost got us kicked out of the Super Bowl party a couple years ago.
Oh, geez. There you go. Uh-huh. Okay. So, what I want to ask you next is, so you went through this thing, and really that's where the book came out too. Now, for the single parent, is, what are you going to do for yourself? That's the turning point that you had. So prior to that, you were in the mortgage or the real estate space and just, being a regular realtor. So what did you do to change the way that you were starting to work with people, and kind of lead us through how you morphed into who you are now and what exactly you do for your clients, because it's really unique. And guys, listen, take notes on this, because you're going to want to present this to your realtors. Okay. You'll want to present it and say, hey, look, I want to partner with you to do what Tina and Jen are doing.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is I think right after 2010, after the bankruptcy, finalized, I had to do a reset with my credit, with my income, because with the bankruptcy, I was no longer a homeowner. And so with having sons, everybody has to have a big why. And so my big why became, I have to buy a house for my kids. And so that meant that I needed to get my income back up. And also, and that also required in order to buy a home, get the credit back up. So with that, it just doing the things that I needed to do, as far as getting the credit cards, get a couple, I call them rinky dink, where they had $500 limits versus like 10,000. And using those and paying those every month, getting a car payment. I'd owned my cars outright, but I ended up getting a car payment to reset that. So I've been able to, over the years, speak to people about that, and rebuilding their credit. And even with income, I hired a business coach to help me do that. That made a big difference to get back on track to making six figures again. And the things that I learned along the way, I ended up finding that like single moms, will come ask me questions like, how did you do what you did? And I'd walk them through it. So I ended up, doing like this about 3 years ago, like a single mom empowerment program where I would do like teleclasses and teaching them how to, get prepared for financing, how to rebuild their credit, how to, budget, and exploring their financing options, how to save for down payment based upon things that I had to do in order to get in a position to buy a home for my sons again. And that's how that initially morphed. And then over time, as the market has changed, and I just kept noticing, especially more so this year than ever before, that I had clients that wanted to buy a home, but their credit scores were low. And then when I looked really into it, I'm like, you're carrying a lot of credit card debt. And that's when I started working with them, more so actually, mid last year going into this year. The 10-70-20 rule. So, and that's when I started breaking down to them every time they get their paycheck, to break it down in 10-70-20. Pay yourself first 10%, 70% is for living expenses, and 20% is for debt payoff. As I've showed them how to do that every month with their paychecks, it has made a difference to help them save and pay off debt at the same time. So, and then I've taught them other things to do, what they can do to help increase their credit scores. But that's ultimately how it got started and where it is now, and the testimonials that are coming back from people as they're buying things, or they're even after the fact, they're still working the system that I taught them. And it really, that makes my soul so happy because it makes a difference. And now I'm teaching them, pass it on to your kids, teach your kids so they don't make the same mistakes. I can't hear you, Jen.
Sorry, I love all that. And, everybody who's listening too is, did you hear that she said she knew her why, right? So that's something that we talk about all the time is we have to know our why, that we're in, the business, and that resonates through. And I know I'm seeing, but of course I've known you, right? But I'm sure everybody's seeing, the passion that you have and the joy that you have for helping people. And that's what we do as well. We don't talk about how many loans we close. We talk about how many families we serve every month, right? How many families do we help this month? And I think that that really resonates with our group here. So I definitely like that. Now, the other thing is I want to talk a little bit deeper about this 10-70-20 and how you came up with that, number one, because I know you have a designation, so you can talk about your designation, how that kind of filters in. And this might be something that loan officers can recommend for their realtors as well. But about how you specifically manage that and who are the parties that are involved in managing that, because it's not, we know about consumers that, we say pay yourself first and they don't. We know they consume rather than conserve. So what is it that you're doing to manage that, to ensure that that person does see success in their financial picture so that you can help them buy a home and ultimately close and help families, move into new homes?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I would like to say that I want to be original, but the 10-70-20, you're going to laugh. I read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and that is where I got that formula, 10-70-20. And then I started applying that to my own finances. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? So since it was working for me, then that's also what made me start, sharing it with clients. The same, and I was actually doing money management coaching with a client, and single mom, and every time she took a step forward, she'd take like 4 steps back. And so I was like, you know what, let me give you a new formula. This is what we're going to do. And when I started doing that, she was making strides, because it's very simple and very easy. And with that, again, with the 10%, it's pay yourself first. The 70% was literally your living expenses, from your roof to your, food, utilities, personal care, things of that sort. And then 20%, which is the debt payoff. And the difference between that, because, when I've shared, money management people, they're like, oh, Dave Ramsey. No, this isn't Dave Ramsey. I love what, what he's doing, financial peace. But the difference is with this, that makes all the difference in the world, Jen, is that with you're paying yourself, you're saving, and you are paying off debt at the same time. Where, with other options, it's like you have your emergency fund set up, and then you're paying off debt. And then it could be 5 years, 10 years later, and then you're done paying off debt, but you have nothing saved. And then you got to save another 20% for a down payment. So based on, somebody else's formula, but in this case, it is allowing people to do these things at the same time. And then over, month after month after month, they're able to see that how much their money is working for them. Take somebody who's making, an income of $5,000 a month. I'm just using a simple number since it's probably across the board in the US. But 5,000, you set aside 10% every month, 500 times 12, they've already saved now $6,000, and if you're in the DC metro, okay, if it's 10 grand, now they've saved $12,000. That could go towards a down payment or closing costs. But at the same time, with the 20%, that's $1,000 every month that they've set aside to pay credit card debt. They set aside to pay car loans, student loans, that that's going designated to that. And then whatever money is left over after the fact, that they pay the minimum of those expenses, now they can take the debt with the lowest balance and apply the rest of that chunk to that and start eating in a way like that. And it just helps them build that momentum that much faster. I mean, I spoke to a client that I've been working with for about a year, and she literally, she's like, Tina, I've saved $16,000. And when I talked with her at the beginning of the year, it was $5,000. Her and her husband had 8 credit cards. She's like, oh my gosh, I have she had 4, he had 4. She's like, I have 1 more payment left and I'm done after this month. And then my husband has 1 more. So they went from having 8 credit cards to just literally almost done with them all 8. And they'll leave the line obviously open, so it works for the credit score. And they went from low 600 to, I think she was saying there's somewhere both of them hanging around 692. So they've been basically 70 points jump in their credit scores. Yeah. And they got, matter of fact, they got really serious more so in May. She was on board at the beginning of the year. He wasn't quite convinced. He was spending the money but by May, when I sat down with them, I kicked my heels off, I'm walking flat footed with my business suit on. He was like, oh my gosh, Tina's serious. And I'm like, we're going to do this, but I need you to get serious about it too. And that was when that sold him. That is when he bought into the process. And then I said, okay, with groceries, I want you guys to have cash for it. We designated how much they needed to set aside for groceries and, gas and some other things. And so he became, ironically enough, the one that went out and bought the groceries and made sure, because they were using cash, and I told them what to buy and how to meal plan, and they would have money left over. So he would save that. And so because of those little changes, that's how they were able to go from $5,000 to $16,000 now. And so literally she is so sold on Tina. We save $1,000 a month. And it's just like, and they don't even make a lot of money combined. You know what I mean? They make like $5,000 combined, but they're saving $1,000. And they know they need anywhere between 3.5% to 5% to put down, depending on the type of loan they get. But that's the kind of difference, like just 10, 70, 20. People can hold on to that. That's all, like, hey, that's your home right now. So it's awesome. Working.
Okay. So I just want to recap just for a second, because we had a question about just going back to the categories, and I know that you went through them. I just want to make sure everybody has it. So it's 10, 70, 20. 10% is pay yourself first, save. 20% is living expenses, budgeting, right? Using a
No,
budget.
70% is living expenses.
Did I say 20? Yeah, sorry about that. 70% is living expenses and budgeting. And so, if you're listening in and you've never listened to Dave Ramsey or watched Dave Ramsey, I would use Dave Ramsey's techniques for living expenses, but I'm sure you have some others as well. But I would definitely use Dave Ramsey's strategies for living expenses. And then the 20% is to pay off the debt. And what Tina was talking about was something called a snowball payoff. So if you have, I'll use two credit cards that the minimum payment is $50 on each. You pay that until you can get down to a low enough amount with the lower balanced one. And once it gets paid off, instead of saying, yay, I have $50 extra, you move that $50 into accelerating payoff of the next one. And so it snowballs. And then once you have them all paid off, you can reallocate that 20% into your savings every single month. And so that will exasperate that as well, and move that up. The second question is, Greg had asked, how long did it take for your clients to jump that 70 points? And I think you said about a year, right? Or
no, actually, what was funny, to be honest, like I started with her in January, but because they weren't really taking it seriously, it wasn't until May when I sat with them and kicked my heels off that from May to this point, it went up 70%. Because the other thing I want to mention to you, 6 months, is that I call it the 30% rule. Like as a loan officer, when you look at people's credit scores and you're looking at what's going on with their activity, with credit card debt, you're saying, hey, at least get it to 50%, pay it down to 50%. Because it looks good for the mortgage company. But I tell people, get it down to 30%, because for myself, as I was mentioning before to you all, is that when I had to rebuild my credit, I was tracking it on, tracking the scores, and I was noticing that it wasn't making a dent at 50%. It kept saying, if you get to 30, it's going to make much more. So I tell people 30%. So to Jen's point, if you have a credit card and it's $1,000, the limit is $1,000, then I tell people you need to get it to 300. And so like, let's say I have, a lot of times I have people that have multiple credit cards. So I tell them that, okay, the first goal is let's get these credit cards to the limit of 30% of get it to 30% of the limit. And then after that, then we'll start paying them off. But I need you to at least get to 30%. And that's also where I see a dramatic change in the credit score. So that's also what's happened with this client. Let's just say, for example, that's how they were able to see the jump that they saw, because they started with getting them to 30%. And then once they got them all to 30%, then they started just going hard and using that extra monies and paying them all off. But they were seeing the momentum, and they were just seeing how their money was working for them, and they were seeing their savings grow. And that was what was keeping their eye on the prize.
Right. So when you look back into when you started, so one of the things that you did is you obtained a license that really was sort of the catapult, or the the catapult that took you, that said, okay, this is what I'm going to do in my practice, rather than just going out and selling homes. I want to catapult this there. So what is that designation that's kind of interesting that a realtor would get? And I think you all will be really surprised about it too.
Yeah, I actually, I got my insurance license more so to help people with with retirement savings for, the IUL. And with that, it allows people to have especially with people having trouble saving. And then it's like thinking, okay, in the future with retirement, that, if they're setting aside a certain amount every month with the IUL, they're able to have lifetime income. And so when I started looking at that, then that's also what helped me too, to help streamline with my clients on money management.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Whoops, I'm sorry. I think that's really interesting because, and let me clarify that insurance was a life insurance license, right?
Yeah, life insurance.
Yeah, not property and casualty or anything like that. So, when we talk on these weekly calls about differentiating yourself in the market and becoming a local expert, to be able to compete with online mortgage, and you're experiencing that. You have online lenders or real estate companies, Redfin, Zillow, you have them as well. And so you have to compete with them. And so in order to be competitive moving forward, I think, we know it is going to be imperative that we become the local expert, that we become that person. And what a unique way to do this. By the way, someone said, love your contagious enthusiasm, should help to minimize the rate commodity trap. Is she Series 7 licensed too? I don't think so, but that's a tough exam. No, I didn't think so. I don't think you wanted to go in that direction. It's more about wealth management and things like that. So tell us now what else you're doing now, because you've done that, and you're saying, okay, I'm helping my clients. I want to know how what resources you have available to you, or what other team members you have that are helping you do this, because I don't imagine that you're the only one who's managing their wealth creation through that process. You're probably connecting them with somebody and doing that. So how do you partner, and who do you partner with?
Yeah, I definitely, I'm not a solo act, if you will. I do have strategic partners and financial planners but it's more important that they have like the same like-mindedness, love for people, have a heart to see people win, and also see the value, like let's say the IUL, but also, with looking at, okay, and they also value the fact that how to utilize real estate to build long-term wealth as well. And so those are important, but so from the financial planner to the property management company, because that's another side. And, looking at things, it's just not about, it's almost like we all have to be, you guys are the mortgage coaches, but even take it a next step further, the real estate coaches, in the sense that you're in it, or real estate mortgage coach, to be in it for the long term, meaning like what's really more your 5-year or 10-year plan with your client versus just that transaction. Meaning that help them get into a home, and what is it going to take to do that? But what's next after that? How are you going to help them build wealth, to be in a position to purchase additional properties or investment properties, so they can have that, leave a legacy for their kids. And so with that, then there comes in the property management company, there comes relationship with other realtors that, that help in the process, whether they're local or in other states, the insurance people. It's about really building your team. And that's what I've been doing, is I've just been identifying strategic partners that share, that are running the same direction, share the same vision I have a heart for people that I have. And so, and then, I even added, because I want to, in helping people build wealth through real estate, it's like my Collazo Realty group, has become approved as a federal government contractor. So now, I can pursue with the federal government real estate related contracts. So this helps bridge the gap from clients that are ready to transition from residential to even commercial purchases, where, they can buy a building or even a residential, like a house and some that, it's bridging the gap, bringing them, whether it's homeless vets or, vets transitioning to civilian life or military families. So putting them in those properties. So guess what? Now I'm helping you be more risk averse, where you're not, it's guaranteed income from what? The government, you know what I mean? And you're also doing a good thing. And so this is, this is a way, again, being out of the box and thinking differently, and setting clients up to really be successful and to pursue the things that they want to really do versus the day to day. But I think also, even to your point, Jen, too, I think relationships are key. That's the difference between me, Redfin, or any other realtor that wants to sit down and have a relationship with a client, is and building that long-term relationship. And then even with the referrals, because I think end of the day, they can have all these companies do these things, but that heart connection, that's what's going to continue to keep us in business, and the referrals come in.
I agree. So, hey, Michelle, I wanted you to chirp in and see if you had any questions for Tina, and then when we come back on that, Tina, I'm going to ask you about that wealth building piece. I want to expand on that a little bit, because you and I have had a lot of conversations about it. So, Michelle, are you available?
I'm available.
There you are. So, anything you'd like to chirp in and comment on?
Well, first, I just want to say, Tina, wow. I mean, talk about making a positive impact on your clients' lives and making, we talk about this. I mean, I went to the Darren Hardy thing and they talk about the number one thing to build your business is you have your clients be your avid fans, right? And you have done that. You have made sure your clients love you. They probably talk about you. And when we as loan originators and probably in the real estate business, our job is not to stop when the loan closes. Our job is to make that person want to tell everybody they know about us, right?
Right, absolutely.
I've done that. And that is so cool. And I have a special heart for people who go out and help people create better wealth for themselves and put themselves in a better financial position. Unfortunately, back in 2006, not all of us, we would put people in loans that we knew they probably shouldn't be in. And now we can't do that, but you've kind of taken that to a different level and said, hey, not only do I not want you to fail, I want you to be so successful.
Yes.
And that has a special place in my heart because, I too kind of fell on my face in 2007. And, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right?
Exactly.
So we learn from it and being able to use your experience and relate it to your clients. I mean, what better way to start that bridge of creating that, ultimate trust. So that is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And even to your point with that, and I think I had a client recently say to me, like, because I was telling her how like people feel very comfortable just sharing. Matter of fact, I shared the example with Dave that our finances are very personal, and I was like, it's like, and people feel very comfortable sharing that with me. It's like going, if any of us have had babies, when it's time to deliver, we don't even care who sees it, just get the baby out. You know what I mean? And that's how when I meet with clients, they're like, they're that transparent, that vulnerable. And it's so humbling to just an honor for them to feel, and that's where that trust comes in. That's where the authenticity comes in. And that's to your point where when I share about my personal experience about having to do bankruptcy, having to start all over, that's, and then sharing where I've fallen, but at the same time where the success, I've been able to rise above it. I want to encourage all you that are listening. That's when you can get past yourself and share about yourself. That's what makes the difference for them to say, you know what, I want to go deeper with this person. That's what helps build that strong connection and relationship, make it long term.
Well, I think that's incredible. And I think what you do for them and, you're not just creating the one transaction for them, you're creating a new lifestyle for them, which is
exactly.
Again, you've just created this incredible trust with your clients that will be unbroken. And no matter, even if somebody says, oh, my friend does, real estate, buy from her. They're like, Tina told me that this is what I need to do. It's never been wrong. And I'm not going to do anything but what Tina tells me to do. So that's fantastic. And that's just, I learned a whole bunch over, you learn every year on something, but it was 2 years ago is when I started to learn to actually tell people more about who I was and what happened, and the connections that I've created over the last 2 years have really helped me, especially through our times right now where it's kind of becoming a little bit more competitive. People don't question because they have that trust factor. So congratulations and, building your business. And you're right, we can't all do it ourselves, right? We have to have a team of people that back us up and support us because you have to do what you are so good at and let the rest of your team. I would love to hear a little bit about how your team works a little bit. Like, how do you integrate them into helping you make this impact even greater for your clients?
Yeah, so literally, let's just say with like loan officers, it's all about, are we, they on the same page, so I align myself with the people that are on that, that same vision and have a heart for people, because when you work with people that way, you're also dealing with mindsets. So, and having helped them break through it. But so when, with loan officers, it's just keeping them, meeting with the client, also sharing with them again, 10, 70, 20 rules, so they're familiar with it. And that way we're working together. And reaffirming the client, also keeping the client accountable. Obviously, loan officer see, the credit scores, sees what, what's going on, the credit reports with the debt, and keeping me abreast on what they're seeing. And that helps us as a team establish goals. Like, the LO is telling me, you know what, based on what I see, this is going to take 6 months. This may take a year. This may take 3 months, or this is a quick turnaround. We just need to do this. So we're able to establish goals. And then I'm able to, from the numbers that they provide me, to like, all right, here's our targets. Even with, with the financial planner, it's looking at, the clients may be contributing towards their 401k, but, make for a couple $100 a month, they can contribute towards the IUL as well for retirement. And so they're looking at those numbers. So I'm able to say, okay, you know what, Ava, by the way, such and such is, here's what their monthly expenses look like. They can afford to do this. So, can you meet with this person to discuss, the advantages of being able to set this up for themselves so they'll have retirement, lifetime income by the time they retire at 65, 67. So it's doing a pass off and transitioning like that, and letting clients know up front too that it's just not me. There's a team of people. And that's also what I found as a differentiator too in the marketplace, is that that I know that I can refer them to different people, that this is just not a transaction. This is we're going to help you win in every area of your life, and I'm going to point you to the people that are going to help you win, especially in the area of finances. And so, and that's where, like, let's just say those particular team members are very important and very crucial to the success of the client.
I love it. One quick question. Do you do any so like for us in mortgages, we like to do our metrics and measure, like if we have a referral partner, what that referral partner is doing for us and what we're doing for them. Do you do the same in your business as well?
Yeah, I'm tracking to see who I refer the business to and who's converting and getting it done. Yeah, that's how I track it that way.
Love it. Love it. Mm-hmm. Love it. Well, you're incredible. Yeah. You're incredible.
Yeah, thank you. You guys are too.
She is. Well, so again, guys, if you have questions, please put them in here, because this is a great opportunity for you to do, for you to ask questions, right? All right. So I want to talk about two quick things. We'll talk about it in a moment. We'll talk about suggestions that you have about how we can approach realtors like you, right? Yeah. And win the relationship with you, and have that opportunity to work with you, but also how we could approach realtors and introducing them to this strategy that you're talking about. But I want to get back just real quick, something that I don't think everyone picked up on, and that is that so one of the reasons you went into government contracting, the government contracting space, and you just won that big opportunity just recently, a couple months ago, because you know that people make a lot of money, but they're just not saving it, and they're not putting it in the right places, and they're maybe not buying properties. But it's also the clients that you've already closed transactions with. You're going back to and saying, okay, now we're continuing to save because we're now living the 10-70-20 rule. Right. And we're continuing to save. So now what do we do with your money? And so that's where you start expanding into multifamilies, which is what you and I have been really working on, is the multifamily space, and saying, how can we not just do, one property, but how can we do multiple properties to create some passive income? And where we're really, really, really creating that wealth. And I really wonder how many loan officers think about multifamily. I also wonder how many loan officers think about multifamily, but I wonder how many realtors do as well. I mean, you're a real estate agent. That means you do anything real estate, right? I think a lot of realtors focus on single family. So why has this been so good? And if you can give some results on it too, I want to hear some, a story or two, if you have a story about someone that you've been able to take from just a single family home and saying, let's go out and buy a multifamily and let's see your wealth really, really grow.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when I talk to people, so when I shifted the mindset, because I had bought residential investments in the past, and because I bought my first home when I was 23 years old, like right out of college, and I'm 41 now. So I've probably bought like 8 or 9 properties, if you will. But needless to say, with the residential, it's like, you know, you have one roof, tenant can't pay, then you still got to pay the mortgage. But also, you know, with the multifamily, compared to the residential, is that the value of the property, at least for 5 units or more, that the value of the property is more based on the net operating income than it would be for the residential. You know, it's what the neighbors sold for. So for me, especially as a single mom, you know, and looking at, you know, just working at being more risk averse, that was more attractive. And then obviously too, with looking at, okay, how can, you know, get these units to be more, you know, have vacancy as minimal as possible. So that's also where the government contracting side comes into place to just bridge the gap. So with that, you know, because of in the recent months and working with clients and making that transition, I don't necessarily have like a commercial story just yet, but it is in the works. And so, and people are starting to get more, because it's, you know, having to help shift the mindset from residential. They're always like, you know, well, what about just townhouse, single family? Just want to start here. So now it's just getting them to that place and also making sure that they are in that financial position to have the money for the down payment. Because with commercial, it is about 25% down. And it's, you know, it's a little bit more, more to it. So, but this is the direction that, you know, I'm taking people.
Yeah. I think so. You know, for those of us on the call that are, you know, real estate investors, we all know that after a while you stop buying single families and you buy multifamily. Yeah. It's just easier to do because it's just more scalable, right? And I think in today's market environment, as loan officers, you know, we know that we're looking for new ways to, you know, penetrate the marketplace, get more clients, have more relationships with realtors. So this is another area you could be thinking of, is just some of that small commercial, you know, the 1 to 4 and maybe even 5 and more. You know, you may have resources through banks and whatnot that you could get that. Yes. It happens to be a specialty that I work on, and so that's why I do those. But I think that differentiates you in the marketplace, and I think that we need to be thinking out of the box, and I think you're definitely doing that. So let's move on to the last question I have, which is, so you're a top producing realtor, and I know how I met you, but I just want everyone to, you know, sort of hear what is it that a loan officer could be doing to get your attention and to work with you? What are some of the things that you're looking for in today's market specifically, because it's different, right? What do you need from us? What are we not doing and what are we doing but not really well? So could you expand on that a little bit? We want to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely, Jen. I think what makes a big difference is it's relationships. It's listening to the LO, you know, how they view clients. Do they view client as a transaction, or do they view them, or do they have actual relationship that they've been working with these clients for a long time? And so, because again, like I was mentioning, let's be in this for the, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan, meaning that we're actually helping change lifestyles, that we're not just sitting there like, okay, we'll help you get a home. Okay, well, maybe 5 years you'll move up into the next, from the condo to the townhouse, or the townhouse to the single family. But no, it's get that home, but also, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, after you do this, like, what is, when do you want to retire? What do you see yourself investing in real estate? And if so, how much, what do you need? How much income do you need every month by the time you retire? What do you need coming into your bank account in order to be good to go for the rest of your life? And if we have those type of conversation, if that loan officer is thinking on that same level, that means we're making clients for life, because we're not just like this onesie thing or twosie, like, okay, move up. We're actually helping you be in a great financial position. And that loan officer that has not only so relationships are key, it's, helping the client plan for long-term, like really understanding what their needs are, short-term and long-term, and also strategic relationships. Who else are they? Like, who's their team 100? Who's on, who are their top players or A players that can be of complimentary service to the clients. So that way, if they need something, whether it's a, landscaper to, a doctor referral, But again, it's, how are they bringing value to stand out from, from everybody else who just like is looking for I feel like a lot of loan officers look at realtors as their lead source, like, you know what I mean? Give me.
Yes.
And that frustrates me because it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll bless you with leads, but you know what? Or clients, but let's reciprocate here. Send me some clients to send me, great clients that are our ideal clients, that are fun to work with. So that makes a difference. So again, it's having, most important, just sharing the same heart and same love for people, because this is such a people business. And I think that's what's going to capture my attention.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So is there anything that you'd like to leave us with? As we're 15 minutes before the hour, we got 15 more minutes. And I really encourage everybody, please ask some more questions if you want to have more questions. But how can we be approaching our realtor partners that we already have and say, I was on this webinar and, she's doing something really different. She's differentiating herself. She's priming herself for, what's to come.
Yeah.
We're all sitting around going, hey, it's the holidays. There's nothing going on. So gosh, maybe we shouldn't be working. We'll just play. What can we be doing with them to prep ourselves for next year? And what do you think would be a really good approach if you were being approached and you don't have your license? Your life insurance license, and we've never really addressed this, because I will tell you that as mortgage coaches, what we do is we are managing their mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. We don't just let the deal, and I hate saying deal, but we don't close the loan and then just leave the client. For the majority of us, we communicate with our clients, for the long haul and work on, I call it entrance strategies, exit strategies. Entrance strategies, holding strategies, and then exit strategies. What is going to be our entrance? What are we going to do while we're holding to keep you available in a position that you can have the exit that you want? If in fact, sometimes the exit's just keeping it as a rental, and sometimes it's selling it. Yeah. So we definitely manage mortgages, but not all realtors do. So how can we approach them and say, hey, look, I've got this idea. What do you think would be a good way for us to approach someone?
Couple things. So like, one of the strategies for 2019 that, because I love educating, obviously I love talking, as y'all can see, is, I did a home buying seminar last month in November, and, picked up the phone, made some personal phone calls, invited some clients that had expressed interest in the past in buying, invited them out. They came out and did like an expert interview. So I interviewed a loan officer, interviewed the title rep. So what I would suggest for you all, like if you are comfortable having like, again, it's all about relationships, have people come into your office or have an event somewhere where you can, go through the home buying process, or even have a session on, the 10-70-20 rule. When you meet with, identify the realtors that you really want to go deep with, where you want to have a long-term relationship with, and they also are a bright, shining star themselves. Sit down and say, hey, can we talk about this 10-70-20 rule? I really want to help clients change their financial situation, not just for the short term, just to buy this home, but to really build these money management muscles that will allow them to, when they're ready to move up into the bigger home, they can, and they'll be a much stronger buyer when they do that. But also that helps put them in a position that, they can buy and invest in real estate. And obviously with these bright, shining star realtors, that they would be your partners and going in to help them with the move up, help them with the investments, and you're providing the loan for those things. So you guys are building multiple transactions in just one client, but it's just, I'm seeing that who's open to that. Also, how do they manage their money? Are they, I wouldn't say per se, are they doing 10-70-20, but kind of what are their financial strategies? Because if they're pretty close to what I'm talking about, then these people, and do they have a heart for people? And that way you two can kind of come together and maybe do like a once a month, class on money management, or, even an individual session with people, depending on, the situation. But that's how I would approach it. I would ask the realtors you want to do it. So, how are you, where do you see yourself going with your clients? What's your big vision with your clients? And that's how you identify the realtor you want to go deep with. And then, hey, do you want to, what about implementing 10-70-20? I was on a webinar and there's a realtor that spoke about it. She's having a lot of success with her clients, building long-term relationships with them. But this 10-70-20 rule is changing lives. And that's how I would approach it. Again, this isn't for everybody because not a lot of people think out the box. So just, again, identify your bright shining stars and approach them and sit down with them and break it down. And that's what I would suggest.
I think that's awesome. Hopefully you all are taking notes on that. I can see everybody changing their marketing plan for next year to include a 10-70-20 right away. I'm writing and taking notes, and we always talk about that in our productivity because this is about productivity as well. Mm-hmm. And that is, what action are you going to take after this call? And hopefully you have carved out, what Todd always talks about, a half an hour or an hour after this call so that you can, utilize that time to implement what you're learning here today. It's extremely important that, confirms that. So, two people, Jorge, is it Jorge? Oh gosh, sorry about that if I'm getting that wrong, but George, maybe it's just George Alvarez. George, got it. Thank you. George wants one more time. Can you confirm the 10-70-20 rule and 10% and 10 go into savings? Let's kind of drill this in. I just want to make sure that everybody is getting that. You're going to write it down.
Can I actually, can I, if you all don't mind, because I did write some specific notes that I wanted you all to take note of. Okay, so let's rewind. 10-70-20. So 10% is pay yourself first. So that's your savings.
After tax.
After tax. That's your savings. So that's basically when they get their paycheck, that's what they're working with. 70% is your living expenses. That's the house, that's the food, that's utilities, self-care, that's, your basic living needs. And then 20% is the debt payoff. So that goes towards paying all the debts. So let's say specifically how, with working with that, like, as far as you guys with loan officers, you're running credit. I did want to point out, like with people with low credit scores, this is what I do with them is that I work with them on paying down the debt. And again, 20% debt payoff. So again, we're going to use simple numbers. Say their monthly income is $5,000. 20% is $1,000. So let's just say theoretically, between credit card payment, student loan, maybe a car payment, let's just say it's $700 a month that they have. So they have an excess of $300 of the 20% that they designated just for debt payoff. So let's just say they owe $300. They have a $300 balance on a credit card. So boom, and let's just say there's 3 credit cards. They can take that $300, apply it to that credit card, and now that balance is zero. That leaves them with 2. So guess what? Whatever the minimum monthly payment was, let's say it was $50 for that. Then the following months, if they only have 2, that means that instead of $700, there's $650 in debt making minimum payments. So now they have $350. Well, let's just say, for example, that one of the credit cards, the lowest balance is $350. Boom, apply it to that. And that's how they start rolling it down. But even again, as loan officers, I know you tell people 50%, let's get, credit cards at 50%, but really encourage them to get it to 30% of the limit. So again, if it's $1,000 limit, then say, guys, we need to get you. So matter of fact, when you are running their credit, instead of sending them their credit reports, have them come into your office. Don't just send it to them and say, well, we need to get your scores at this. Here's what you can do. And then keep it moving. Set aside, say, hey guys, come into my office. Let's sit down for an hour. And go through the 10-70-20. You have all their financial information. You know how much they make. So you could break that down. You know what their credit report looks like.
Good idea.
Break that down.
Yeah.
And so with looking at, looking at their credit card expenses and what their limits are and where they're at, then you need to take those numbers and line them up on the paper and say, okay, you have a $10,000, because that could be the case for some people, $10,000 here or $5,000 here, but you're at $4,500 and your limit is $5,000. We need to get this to $1,500, you know, or $1,000. We need to get to $300. But give them that plan. Show them in writing what that looks like, because we fail to realize that even for myself, I'm a very visual person, and I bet a lot of you all are too. So you got to think about that for your clients. Like, you can talk at them. They're with deers in a headlight, where if you sit down with them and, you know, just take that 1 hour, just as if you were doing like an initial consultation, take that time to just sit with them and walk them through that. So get them to show them where at 30%, where do they need to get their balance to? So when they get their bill every month, whether it's on the email or if it's paper format, they're looking at that number saying, okay, Dave said I need to get it to this number. And then they're able to come back to you for accountability purposes and be able to tell you where their limit is, where they're at this point.
Well, let me ask you another question that someone just asked, and they said, how do you apply this to self-employed or commissioned employees? So if someone makes $5,000 one month and $0 the next, and 20 the next month, how are you guiding them? How are you guiding them?
Okay, so what I do with those people is take the number, take the overall what you made in a year, divide that by 12, yeah. And so because you're gonna, like, if you have that month where you're gonna make a lot of money and the next month could be like this, then the moments you have, so again, I tell people with their bank accounts, you have your checking account, and you have kind of like and then you have your savings account that you don't touch. So especially with the self-employed, you're going to have your main checking account where you're going to pay your expenses out of, but then you have like a backup savings that attaches to that checking account. So when you have that month of excess, you tuck it in there. So the month where you're more leaner, you've already budgeted for the previous month. So you're able to pull up that money into that account to pay the expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
So everybody listen, you know, I mean, she, meaning Tina's really learned how to do this. And, you know, we are loan officers, right? And my recommendation is to go to some financial planners and talk about budgeting with them and bring them in and have them part of your team, and meet with your clients with them at the same time. Find someone who doesn't need somebody who makes $250,000 or has a minimum of $500,000 in assets, right? Someone who says, look, I really want to help people. Yeah. And then you'll learn from that, and eventually you can do it on your own as well. So, you know, we totally appreciate that. So listen, we're 3 minutes away, Tina. We want to again say thank you. Michelle, any last comments that you'd like to put in here real quick?
No, again, Tina, you are an inspiration for all of us. You're a living example of really, as a human being, what we should be, but also as a leader, what we should be. So I'm going to agree with the person who said your personality is, I mean, you are just, you have this glow and this, I'm not a hippie chick, but if I am, I'm going to say you have this aura of you that is just likable and lovable. I love it.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, I don't work with just anybody.
No, you don't.
Yeah, we have really a really wonderful connection. And it's deeper than just a relationship. And, we talk about that all the time, about not just going deeper and wider, but having a rich relationship, and it's a very rich relationship. And, I just want to say thank you for all of you for listening in today as well. And my hope is that, and if you have more questions, put them in our Facebook page, and I'll monitor that over the weekend. So if you have any questions you want to ask Tina specifically, I'd be happy to facilitate that. But Tina, how do they get a hold of you if they want to connect with you on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything like that? What's the best way?
Yeah. So, Facebook is Tina.Collazo. And even with LinkedIn, same thing. My email address, if anybody wants to send me an email, Tina@Collazo, COLLAZO, realtygroup.com. Or my cell is 202-255-9373.
There you go. So you all can give her a jingle and say, hey, get your other realtor on the phone and have a little conference call with her. I'm sure she will.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, listen, everybody, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time today. I know we're getting close to the holidays, staying on the call with us. Again, Tina, I cannot express my gratitude and strong enough just to say thank you so much for taking time to do this with me. I knew you were going to be the perfect person to share something brand new, something out of the box. We're stretching our comfort zone. And we just want to say thanks again, and we'll catch you all next time and next week.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you too, Jen. Thanks, guys.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye.